In this video, we're going to take a look at what are called measures of center. When we have a lot of data, that can be really good because it means we've got a lot of information that we can use to understand a phenomenon or a situation. But the more data that you have, the harder it is to actually see what it all means. And that's not necessarily when we're talking about big data, but even just when you start to get 20, 30, 40 pieces of data or observations of something. So what we often do is called summarize the data. And a couple of the fundamental ways to do that are called measures of center and measures of spread. So measures of center that we might see, the three most common things that you'll see are the mean, the median, and the mode. So the mode is just the most common value that arises in your data set. The median is the middle value once you've written the data set in numerical order. And the mean is what you might be commonly thinking of as the average value. Or when we talk about average, we usually talk about the mean. And that's given by adding up all the data values that you have and then dividing by how many of those values there are. Let's check out a few examples. So in this first one, I'm going to figure out what the mode of this data set is. So you can see there are a set of numbers. There looks like about 14, 15 numbers or so. And remember that the mode is just the most common value in the data set. So with a data set of this size, you could kind of just do it by eyeballing the data. There's not many points there, so we could just figure out which one appears the most in that set. A slightly more systematic way to go about it would be to set up a frequency table. So I might do that just here. Now, just don't worry about the labels. X is just the data value or observation that I'm looking at, and F is going to be the frequency or the number of times that I see it. So in that set of data, I've got values ranging from 3 is the smallest all the way up to 11. So I'll pop those values in here. Up to 11. And then the frequency of those, I'm just going to go through and count them out through the data set. So I can see I've got a 3 and no more, so the frequency is 1. 4s, I actually can't see any 4s, so my frequency is 0. 5s, I've got 1 and no more, frequency of 1. And checking out 6s, I've got a 6 and another one, so the frequency of 6 is 2. 7s, none on the top, 1, 2, 3 on the next row, so the frequency of 3 for 7. 8s, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 8s. Looks like a candidate for the mode. 9s, I've got 1, just the 1. 10s, again I've got 1. And 11s, I've got 1 11. And just checking through, I have knocked out all of those values. So there we go, there's our frequency table. And I can see just by looking down that the most frequent is 8. So I can say the mode is equal to 8. That's the most commonly appearing data value. So this example is about finding the mean of a data set. So we'll be using that mean formula, which is that the mean is equal to the sum of data values on the top divided by the number of data values. Okay, so the sum of the data values, we're just going to add up all those numbers on the top. So 7 plus 14 plus 2 plus 1 plus 9 plus 9 plus 12, all divided by how many data values we have. Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the bottom. And so if we add up the values on the top, 7 and 14 is 21, and 2 is 23, and 1 is 24, plus 9 is 33, plus 9 is 42, plus 12 is 54, divided by 7. So we can either leave our mean exactly as 54 over 7 or finish it off with an approximation of about 7.7. So that's the mean or the average of that particular data set. So my next example is to determine the median of each of these two data sets. And the reason I've got two different data sets there is because depending on how many data values you have or how many observations you have, there's a very slight change in how you figure out what the median it is. But keep in mind that the median is the middle value in the data set once you've written it out in order. Okay, so you'll see in a moment why we have to change how we figure it out based on how many data values we have or how many observations we have. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause the video and write these two lists out in order. Okay, so there we go. Part A, in order, we have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, 12, and 19. And that's n equals 7 observations there. I'm going to work through this one first of all. Remembering that the median is the middle value. Okay, so we could do it a couple of ways. We could count in from each end. We could go 1 from that end, 1 from that end, 1 from this end, 1 from this end, another one from here, another one from here, and then we're left with the middle value of 7. So I can say that the median in that case is 7. Another way to do it is to actually look at how many data values we have, 7, and the rule says that if we go 7 plus 1 and divide by 2, or 8 divided by 2, or 4, that tells us the observation number that we're looking for. So the fourth observation, 1, 2, 3, fourth observation again is the value 7. So I can say there that the median is equal to 7 for that first data set. Now looking at the second one, part B, again, writing them out in order, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 9, 12, and 19. And in this case, n is equal to 8. I've got 8 observations. Now what happens if I try to go in from either end, knocking off values, trying to find the middle? In this case, if I go 1 and 1, that one and that one, that one and that one, that one and that one, I actually knock out all of the data values. Okay, so it doesn't work really easily in that case. It's a bit less obvious than the first. Turns out that we're actually looking for the value in here, and our median is not going to be one of our data values, but something in between. Okay, so what we usually do in this case is we define the median for the case where we have an even number of observations to be the average of those two middle values. Okay, so the median then would be equal to 4 plus 7 divided by 2, or 11 over 2, or 5.5, halfway between the two values in the middle of our set. Okay, if you wanted something like this rule up here, where I talked about the number of values, 8 plus 1 divided by 2, okay, that's 9 over 2, or 4.5. So we'd be looking for the 4.5th observation in the data set. Okay, now obviously there is no 4.5th observation. That doesn't really make sense. But 1, 2, 3, 4.5 is just halfway between the 4th and the 5th. So we get the same thing again. Now, thinking about halfway between the numbers 4 and 7, we again end up with that 5.5 value for our median.